Hi folks, HR Funk here with a brand new Law Enforcement Qualification Course Challenge video. This is number 18 in this series, and for all of you who aren't familiar with it, what I'm attempting to do is to fire a Law Enforcement Firearms Qualification course from each of the 50 states for the purpose of comparing and contrasting those courses and ultimately determining what I think is the best Law Enforcement Firearms Qualification course in the country. The way I'm doing that is to fire these courses in groups of 10 different courses from 10 different states. When I finish a group of 10, I evaluate those 10 courses and pick what I think is the best of that group, and that course becomes one of my semifinalists. When I complete all 50 states, I'll have 5 semifinalists that'll be in contention for the best law enforcement firearms qualification course in the country. Now, what I ask at the beginning of each one of these videos is if you have access to your state's law enforcement firearms qualification courses and you can get me a copy of those courses, please let me know in the comments section. I'll include a list at the end of this video to show what courses I still need. If you see your state in that list and you can get me those courses, let me know. Also, as always, if you can get me a target or two, I'll let you know where you can mail those to. As a reminder, if you happen to be from one of those states that does not have a statewide mandated law enforcement qualification course, but you can get me a copy of a local course from a police department, sheriff's department, or whatever, I will use that course as a representative of your state. Today's course comes to us from the state of South Dakota. South Dakota uses a 50-round qualification course for handguns that's divided into 6 different stages of fire. Those stages take place at distances as close as 3 yards from the target and as far away as 25 yards from the target. Each one of these stages is timed, and as always, I will describe the course, or the stage rather, before I shoot it, and then I'll demonstrate it for you to see. I'll be using my timer to make sure I get my shots off all within the allotted time limits. At the end of the course, in order to be considered qualified, the shooter has to have 76% of their shots, or 38, within the proper scoring area of the target. Now, South Dakota does not use this particular target. South Dakota uses a modified B-21. As I've mentioned before, I have a hard time getting B-21 targets for some reason. This is an old Ohio target that's similar to the B-21 in terms of its scoring area, so I'll be using this as a stand-in. And what I'll attempt to do is keep at least 38 out of my 50 shots inside of this inner area of the target, which in Ohio at least is the preferred area or the preferred scoring area of the target. Now, in this South Dakota course, every stage begins with the firearm secured in the holster and the shooter standing with their hands at waist level in an interview stance. On the signal to fire, every single stage requires the shooter to draw and fire off whatever number of shots are required within the allotted time limit. Today's challenger is the legendary Smith Wesson Model 29 44 Magnum revolver. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to a course where I was going to use my Model 29, and this is the one. Now, before anyone asks, no, I am not using full power 44 Magnum ammunition. What I'm using essentially is the Skeeter Skelton load loaded into 44 Magnum brass. Now, if you don't know what the Skeeter Skelton load is, it's a load that's going to push this 240 grain lead semi-wad cutter at a velocity of about 950 feet per second out of the 6-inch barrel of my Model 29. This is a very useful load. It's a good load for defensive purposes. Obviously, it betters the 45 ACP ballistics by over 100 feet per second. And I don't think anyone would dispute that the 45 ACP is a good defensive load. So this is going to be the load that I am firing in my Model 29 today, and I'm going to get things set up, and we're going to pit the Smith & Wesson Model 29 and the Skeeter Skelton 44 Special load against the South Dakota Handgun Qualification course. And here we go, folks. The first stage of this South Dakota Handgun Qualification course is fired at a distance of 3 yards from the target, and there are 3 different drills that are fired from this distance. Each one of these drills is required to be fired one-handed by the shooter, but there's nothing in the course description to indicate that any of these drills are to be fired with the non-dominant hand. So my best interpretation of the course description is that each one of these is to be fired with the dominant hand by the shooter. The first 2 drills require the shooter on the signal to fire to draw and fire 3 rounds into the body of the target in a time limit of 5 seconds. The final drill requires the shooter to draw and fire 4 rounds into the body of the target, also in a time limit of 5 seconds. For stage 2 of this course, I'm back to a distance of 5 yards from the target. From here, there are 4 drills that are fired. The first 2 require the shooter to draw and fire 3 rounds into the body of the target in a time limit of 5 seconds. The last 2 require the shooter to draw and fire 2 rounds into the body of the target in a time limit of 3 seconds. And for stage 3, I'm back to a distance of 7 yards from the target. From here, I fire 3 different drills. The first 2 require the shooter to draw and fire 3 shots into the body of the target in a time limit of 5 seconds. The last one requires the shooter to draw and fire 2 shots into the body of the target in a time limit of 3 seconds. For the next stage of this South Dakota course, I'm back to a distance of 10 yards from the target. From here, I fire 3 different drills. The first 2 require the shooter to draw and fire 3 rounds into the body of the target in a time limit of 5 seconds. The last one requires the shooter to draw and fire 2 rounds into the body of the target, also in a time limit of 5 seconds. And it's on to stage 5. In stage 5 of this course, the shooter begins at a distance of 15 yards from the target. On the signal to fire, the shooter has to draw and fire 2 shots into the body of the target in a time limit of 8 seconds. That drill is then repeated 3 times for a total of 8 rounds. Sixth and final stage of this South Dakota Handgun Qualification course, folks. For this stage, I'm back to a distance of 25 yards from the target, and from here, on the signal to fire, I have to draw and fire 2 rounds into the body of the target in a time limit of 15 seconds. That drill is then repeated twice for a total of 6 rounds in this stage. And the tail of the target today is a pretty good one. All 50 of my shots are in the proper scoring area of the target. I had one shot from 25 yards that tried to get away, and it's right on the line. So I had to consult the course description to find out how to count this shot. And what it says is the actual bullet hole must be on or inside the white line. Obviously, I have a black line here, but you don't get any more on the line than that shot. So according to the course description, this counts. That's a 100% qualification score on this South Dakota course. And that's also a very good showing for my Model 29 revolver. Let's hear it for the .44 Magnum, Elmer Keith's brainchild, Inspector Callahan's iconic sidearm, and one that I really, really like, especially with this Skeeter Skelton load. So similar to what we've seen with some other courses, the South Dakota course really is just a straight-up assessment of the shooter's marksmanship capabilities. There's really no tactical consideration in this course other than maybe the one-hand shooting at the very beginning of the course, but there's no non-dominant hand shooting, there's no shooting from cover, there's no walking and shooting or anything like that. It's just strictly get on target and fire your shots from the various distances in each stage. Now, the one thing this course really does emphasize is drawing from the holster. Every single drill from every single stage begins with the firearm secured in the holster, and the shooter has to draw and then fire. So the secret to firing a good score on this course is getting a good smooth draw every time, so you can spend your time watching your sights and squeezing the trigger and not trying to figure out how to get your firearm out of the holster and up onto target. Now, all in all, I enjoyed this course as a shooting exercise. I especially enjoyed shooting it with my Model 29, but when I plug it into the evaluation protocol, it's probably not going to score real high. In any case, that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you order anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you order from Optics Planet. See you next time, folks, and until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.